Banshee, Inactive. Real name, Sean Cassidy. Occupation, former Interpol agent, former adventurer, now retired gentleman of leisure. Identity, secret. Legal status, citizen of the Republic of Ireland with no criminal record. Former aliases, none known. Place of birth, Cassidy Keep, Ireland. Marital status, widower. Known relatives, Maeve, wife, deceased. Thomas, known as Black Tom, cousin. Teresa Rourke, alias Siren, daughter. See, Siren. Group affiliation, former member of Factor 3, former member of the X-Men. Base of operations, formerly Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, Salem Center, Westchester County, New York, now Cassidy Keep, Ireland, and Muir Island, off the coast of Scotland. First appearance, X-Men number 28. Final appearance, as regularly active X-Man, X-Men number 129. History. Sean Cassidy was born as the heir to the castle and estate of Cassidy Keep, Ireland, as well as a small fortune. After graduating from Trinity College, Dublin, with the degree of Bachelor of Science, Cassidy became a detective at Interpol, the international law enforcement organization. By the time he married Maeve Rourke, Cassidy had risen to achieve the rank of inspector at Interpol. Although Cassidy had discovered his mutant powers in his adolescence, he kept them secret, even from the rest of Interpol. However, Cassidy's powers were known to his disreputable cousin Black Tom Cassidy, who had discovered that he himself was a superhumanly powerful mutant. Sean and Black Tom had long been rivals, especially over the love of Maeve Rourke before she finally married Sean. Sean Cassidy was assigned by Interpol to a top-secret mission which required that he stay out of touch with his family for a considerable length of time. When he left on the mission, Maeve was in her first month of pregnancy, although neither Sean nor Maeve knew it at the time. Their daughter, Teresa, was born during Sean's absence. Maeve took the infant Teresa with her on a visit to her relatives in Armagh in Northern Ireland. While she was there, Maeve, an innocent bystander, was killed by an explosion caused by terrorists. No trace of Teresa was found by the authorities, and they and Maeve's relatives assumed that Teresa had also been killed in the explosion. In fact, however, Black Tom Cassidy had been present at the scene of the explosion and had secretly carried Teresa off with him. Black Tom suspected that Teresa might develop superhuman mutant powers as she grew older, and therefore he intended to raise her secretly so that he might exploit her powers himself. On returning from his mission, Cassidy was informed that both his wife and daughter were dead. At first, Cassidy attempted to escape his despair over this news by throwing himself into his work at Interpol. Eventually, however, the still melancholy Cassidy left Interpol to become a freelance operative, and as time went on, he even found himself engaged in criminal activities. The legal authorities never discovered that Cassidy was guilty of crimes, but the mutant known as the Changeling, did, thanks to the technology of the subversive organization of superhumanly powerful mutants and their underlings known as Factor 3. The Changeling contacted Cassidy, whom Factor 3's technology had also identified as a superhumanly powerful mutant, and invited him to join the organization. Cassidy was appalled upon learning of Factor 3's goals and adamantly refused. However, the Changeling and his superior, the so-called Mutant Master, agreed that Cassidy's powers and knowledge of the workings of law enforcement agencies were too valuable for Factor 3 to lose, and so they sent their agents to capture Cassidy. Factor 3 had a headband containing explosives placed around Cassidy's head. If Cassidy defied their orders, the headband could be detonated by remote control. It would also detonate if Cassidy attempted to remove the headband himself. Furthermore, Factor 3 put Cassidy, who went by the codename of the Banshee, under the supervision of one of their trusted human agents, the Ogre. The Banshee thus felt forced to obey Factor 3's commands and, accompanied by the Ogre, performed various criminal missions for the organization. While in New York City on a mission for Factor 3, the Banshee clashed with the original X-Men, who captured both him and the Ogre. The X-Men's leader, Professor Charles Xavier, used a psionic mental bolt on the Banshee's headband, which prevented the detonation mechanism from functioning so that the Banshee could remove it. Once freed of the headband, the Banshee told the X-Men all that he knew about Factor 3. Later, the Banshee discovered Factor 3's secret European headquarters, only to be recaptured by Factor 3. But the Banshee participated in the X-Men's battle with the Mutant Master, and it was the Banshee's powers which exposed the Mutant Master as an extraterrestrial. The Banshee returned to an honest life, and the following years were without known major incidents for him, except for his brief captivities by the Sentinels and by the Second Secret Empire. Professor Xavier later invited the Banshee to join the X-Men when he was recruiting new members to battle the menace of Krakoa, the so-called Living Island. The Banshee remained in the X-Men for some time. It was during this time that he met Xavier's silent partner, the Scots geneticist Moira MacTaggart. Cassidy and MacTaggart soon fell in love with each other, but while Cassidy was based at Xavier's mansion, MacTaggart was based at her mutant research center on Muir Island off the coast of Scotland. While in Japan, the X-Men found themselves in battle with Moses Magnum, a criminal mastermind who had been endowed by Tyrannus and two of the latter's allies with the psionic power to cause earthquakes. See Tyrannus. Magnum unleashed tremendous psionic energy in an attempt to create seismic waves great enough to cause a chain reaction that would destroy Japan. The Banshee simultaneously used his powers to create waves of vibratory force that would cancel out the waves of force that Magnum was creating. The Banshee succeeded to the extent that only small uninhabited islands in the vicinity of Magnum's base were destroyed. However, the tremendous strain that the Banshee had placed upon his powers in performing this heroic feat seriously damaged his vocal cords. Cassidy soon regained his ability to speak, but his superhuman sonic powers, which were dependent upon his vocal cords, have to this day not returned and seemingly never will. Cassidy accompanied the X-Men to Muir Island, where they battled the menace of Proteus, Moira MacTaggart's mutant son, who at one point took his mother prisoner. Proteus was defeated, and the experience of seeing the woman he loved in danger made Cassidy realize that he wanted to stay by her side. Therefore, Cassidy retired from the X-Men, and he and Moira MacTaggart now principally divide their time between Cassidy Keep and Muir Island. Cassidy briefly returned to aid the X-Men against operatives of Arcade, see Arcade, during an emergency situation when most of the X-Men were simultaneously engaged in conflict with an android which Dr. Doom had created in his own image. Later, the X-Men engaged in conflict in the San Francisco area with Black Tom Cassidy, his partner the Juggernaut, and Teresa, who used her mother's maiden name of Rourke, who had developed sonic powers of her own, and who used the alias of Siren. Teresa felt obliged by her duty towards Black Tom, the man who had raised her, and whom she called Uncle out of respect, although they are actually cousins, to assist him in his crimes. After they were defeated by the X-Men, Black Tom gave Teresa a letter to Sean, explaining that she was the daughter he had thought was dead. Sean and Teresa were joyfully united at Xavier's mansion, and Teresa now lives with Sean and Moira MacTaggart. Height, 6 feet. Weight, 170 pounds. Eyes, blue-green. Hair, reddish-blonde. Powers. The Banshee is a mutant who had the same powers that his daughter Siren has, but who could not use them in as many ways as she can. His powers functioned in the same way that hers do. Basically, he could create powerful sonic waves with his voice with which he could achieve various effects, often with the assistance of limited psionic abilities which functioned only in unison with his sonic power. See Siren. powers. The Banshee could use his sonic powers to propel himself through the air in flight, to shatter solid objects, to place human beings temporarily into a hypnotic trance, or to cause human beings to fall temporarily unconscious. Note: Sean Cassidy adopted the name Banshee because the wailing sound that he made when using his sonic powers reminded him of the wailing of the Banshees, which are female spirits of Irish mythology.